Hello, I'm Sarah Trainer. I'm a Careers Information Advisor with Sheffield Futures, and this is a short presentation about how the pandemic has affected the economy and how that in turn has affected the labour market for young people, both nationally but also locally in the Sheffield City region. It's particularly aimed at you if you're a careers leader or a teacher or tutor or any other practitioner with young people, or maybe a parent looking to help your teenager find a way through all of this. If you're a school that buys in careers guidance from Sheffield Futures, you will be receiving a longer, more detailed version, so do look out for that. So, there've recently been some figures out on how the pandemic has impacted on the economy, and it does look pretty devastating, really. The economy shrunk in 2020 by nearly 10%, and all the reports say that this is effectively the largest slump for about 300 years. You have to go back to when we were a land-based economy to find something similar. So massive impact on both goods produced and also services provided. Could it have been worse? Well, quite possibly, yes. For example, the unemployment figures, the rate has now hit 5%, around 2.6 million. But if you go back to the 80s, it was nearly 12% at one point, although it should be added that figures weren't calculated in the same way then. And it's reckoned that the reason it hasn't hit that kind of rate is largely down to the job retention or furlough scheme that it has protected nearly 10 million jobs, and also to technology that has helped many companies keep going. So around 82% of businesses, it's reckoned, are still trading, not to the same level maybe, but still operating, although in some sectors, particularly accommodation, hospitality, that is down to 63%. The other major reason for the relative optimism is the current vaccination programme, because that it's felt that will boost the economy, will encourage people to spend, and therefore lead hopefully to an upturn later in the year. But I will be coming back to that. The other thing is that the signs are that this recession isn't behaving like a typical recession does. It tends to be the less affluent regions that are most hit in a recession. But this time that appears to have flipped, and it's more prosperous regions, particularly London and the South East, who are being hardest hit. And when you think about it, that's largely because the sectors that have been hardest hit by the lockdowns are areas like tourism, hospitality and accommodation, the arts, the theatre and live entertainment, all sectors that are largely London-based. So if we move on now and have a closer look at the local picture, clearly Sheffield City region has been hit, but as I say, compared to some of the more traditionally prosperous regions, some of its key work sectors have held up relatively well. And this is a breakdown of some of the key employment sectors in the city region in the sense of employing the most people. So one of our biggest sectors is health, and clearly that, thank goodness, has kept going during lockdown. Manufacturing and education have also found other ways to operate, particularly in the third lockdown. Retailing, again, has been patchy, but essential retailing has had to keep going, and other branches of retail have found other ways, have taken the business online, as have business administration and support services. There have even been some jobs that have grown in demand over the last 12 months, particularly healthcare workers at all levels for obvious reasons. Also haulage workers, demand for haulage. Clearly that's about ensuring that essential goods are getting out to the shops. And there is a long-standing demand for maths teachers that has continued, and also a long-standing demand for electricians and for craft workers, for trained electricians and craft workers, I should add, and that has continued over the last 12 months as well. If we look ahead, there has been a recent forecast published by the Bank of England, which did predict that the economy would shrink further between now and the end of January. It predicted that would happen by about 4.2%. It also forecast a further rise in the jobless rate as the furloughing scheme comes to an end. But it also forecasts recovery and growth later on in 2021. So there is optimism, and a lot of that, as I've already said, is based on the vaccination programme continuing to be a success. The impact on young people, however, has been severe and continues to be severe. Young people aged 16 to 25 have borne the brunt of a lot of job losses and a lot of furloughing. And there's been a particularly hard hit on a lot of jobs that have always been traditional entry-level jobs for young people in the past, things like coffee shops and bars. And these are where young people traditionally learn so many of those employability skills that they need further down the line in their careers. Also a concern is that apprenticeship starts are down by over 50% from last year. There are other ways in which things are impacting on young people as well. Young people who are in the labour market, who are working from home, are perhaps more likely to be in poor quality accommodation and therefore aren't finding it as easy to work from home. And also young people starting off their working lives aren't getting the same real life social contact as you can get in a workplace. Clearly online contacts can help, but I'm sure we all remember our first few days at work and how much it helped to have those real life interactions and the mentoring support. So there are real concerns that there will be potentially long-term impacts on well-being as well as on young people's education, which is now, their learning is now taking a hit for the second year running. And finally, if you'd like to find out more about any of the issues raised in this presentation, these are the main sources we've used. Starting with Sheffield City Region, who produced some really interesting reports. The latest one on the South Yorkshire latest labour market information came out in January. The Sheffield Chamber of Commerce carry out a quarterly review of local businesses and always present the results. The Office for National Statistics is a really useful source of data on the economy and the labour market. The Centre for Cities produces regular Cities Outlook reports, and the latest was out in January 21. And finally, Skills for Jobs, the Department of Education white paper came out in January, and that has a lot to say about skill shortages and the local labour market. So if you want to know any more, as I say, those are some really good resources. Hope you found that helpful, and bye for now.